Alright guys, welcome back. Hope you're having a lovely November. Now today we're talking about electric dirt bikes. Something I haven't covered in a couple of moons. Because honestly the space was very boring. For like 4 years it was a Sur-Ron. That was your only option if you wanted an electric dirt bike. Otherwise known as an illegal high-powered e-bike. Then it got a little bit more exciting with the Teleria. Teleria is a great option, but it's kind of similar to the Sur-Ron in a lot of ways. We'll cover that more in a second. But more recently, we have a brand new entry that finally brings something tangibly new to the electric dirt bike space. The bike in question is, I think it's a new company, at least I've never heard of them before, and I don't see any other bikes that they offer. The company's called eride. I'm not affiliated with them, by the way. I've just been hearing a lot of buzz, mainly on Reddit, about their new product. And they have two models. They have the eride Pro S and the Pro SS. As you would imagine, the S is kind of the slightly smaller, cheaper version, and the SS is the Pro model. Beginning with the more affordable option, which I think is probably the better option here. The Pro S has smaller 17-inch wheels, which is something I'm a fan of. Bikes like mine that have 20 by 4-inch wide fat tires, on the scale of motorcycle sizing, these are 16-inch wheels. So these quote-unquote smaller 17-inch wheels I think are still plenty big. I also think this model has plenty of power. It's rated at a peak power of 6 kilowatts, nominal 3 kilowatts. And the battery, this is what makes both models of the eride special. Stock, it has a 72 volt battery. And that has always been my biggest gripe with the Sur-Ron and the Telerias. They both have 60 volt batteries. And a higher voltage battery makes all the difference. And if you're paying roughly $4,000 for a high performance bike, you certainly want high voltage. And I just don't think 60 volts really gets you there. 72 volts is what I would categorize as a high voltage system. Yeah, so it's 72 volts, 30 amp hours capacity, which just so happens to be the exact configuration I have here. 72 volts, 30 amp hours capacity. Even my motor is running at a pretty similar power level. This is set currently to 4 kilowatts. And using my system here as a reference, this is completely next level. Like, I'm so happy with this bike. There are differences. For example, this is a hub motor configuration. That dirt bike, as you would imagine for a dirt bike, is a mid-drive. So it should have even better torque. The top speed seems to be pretty similar. They have it rated or advertised as 50 miles an hour. This bike, I can probably get up to 50 miles an hour. Honestly, I've never tried above 45 because that's kind of crazy. Why would you need to go 45 miles an hour on an electric bicycle? But one area that really sets this bike apart from my DIY configuration here is the price tag. You can get all of this straight out of the box, no tinkering needed, for $4,000. I think this bike, all in, is costing me like $6,000. And that's with building it myself. So this new eride Pro S not only has really great specs, finally giving you a 72 volt option straight out of the box, but it's also like economical. I mean, $4,000 for these specifications, full suspension. It's essentially the same body as a Sur-Ron, which is a good thing. That's a very time-tested, proven design. Very modular. The battery is hot swappable. I mean, I really can't find any glaring problems with this bike, aside from the aftermarket. Being that it's a new product, it's going to be hard to get like custom batteries made for it. But I'm sure that as the popularity grows, which I think it will due to the value here, the aftermarket will eventually develop. But if you know that you want even more capability straight out of the box, you can buy the Pro SS model, which is a little bit more expensive at a little bit shy of $5,000. It's currently $4,900, which is still very affordable, by the way. This gives you an extra 10 amp hours of battery capacity, so it's 72 volts, 40 amp hours. that's starting to get up there. And the motor must be a little bit larger as well, because it's set to 12 kilowatts, double that of the Pro S model. And they say that's going to give you a top speed of 60 miles an hour, so quite a bit more capable. Now, for comparison, the Teleria Sting R, the new one, the MX-4, which is a pretty solid bike in its own right, has only a 60-volt battery, 45 amp hours of capacity. Motor's rated at 8 kilowatts. The price tag is somewhere in between these other two bikes at $4,500. And you need to do oil changes. This thing has a gearbox, which I've never been a fan of. Introducing oil changes to electric bikes, in my opinion, is just like the stupidest thing you could possibly do. And both models of the eride Pros have a primary belt drive, much like the Sur-Ron. So no gearbox and no oil changes. And when you compare these bikes against the Sur-Ron itself, the comparison is even more whack. Somehow the Sur-Ron is even more expensive at $4,600. The battery's smaller, 60 volts, 38 amp hours, and the peak power is only 6 kilowatts. So even though the Sur-Ron, I got a lot of respect for it, it kind of kicked off this whole category. I mean, even the new eride Pro, it's clearly heavily inspired by the Sur-Ron's design. It's just that the bike hasn't been upgraded in a while, and it's really starting to show its age. So unfortunately, I just cannot recommend the Sur-Ron anymore until they do some kind of major overhaul to it. Because again, you just now have better options. And prior, a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case. The Sur-Ron was the only game in town. To my knowledge, the only other 72 volt electric dirt bike you can currently buy is the raw Mantis. They also have a normal 60 volt option, which is a little bit cheaper. But the 72 volt model more recently came out, and it packs a 35 amp hour capacity at 72 volts, and the peak power is 7.5 kilowatts. So those specs are right in between the Pro S and the Pro SS, but the price tag is $5,000. Basically the same as the Pro SS, and it's not quite as capable as that model. Luckily, the Mantis doesn't have a gearbox, but it does have another downside, and that's the size. The Mantis is significantly larger and more heavy than the Teleria, Sur-Ron, and this new eride Pro S. It comes in at 165 pounds, and all these other offerings are between like 120 and 140. But let me know, what do you guys think of this new eride Pro S and Pro SS model? Does it change up the electric dirt bike space? I mean, simply based off of the specs, the value, I certainly think it does. Just keep in mind, this is not a street legal e-bike. I'm sure once the aftermarket develops a little bit more, there's going to be like a pedal kit, all that kind of stuff. But right now, it is strictly off-road. By the way, I'm still really enjoying the pegals I installed on this bike in my last video. These things are really fun. The more I use them, the more I can't live without them. I recently showed this bike to a friend for the first time. He hasn't seen it before. And he said the coolest thing about this entire build was the pegals. But I'm at my destination. That's the end of the video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.